Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. So today I'm going to be ranking the top 10 augments for Thunder. Now I was firstly going to rank every single augment for Thunder, but now there's close to 20 augments for Thunder and it's going to be ridiculous if I did that. So I decided to narrow it down to the top 10 best Thunder augments and let you guys know my favorites. Now these videos do take a decent amount of time to make, so if you want to support me, you can go ahead and head to settings, account, and use creator tag Taspens. It really does help me out a ton. Without further ado, let's get straight into the list. Now the number 10 spot's going to go to Salamander shells. Now this augment deals fire damage against enemies on critical hits and even works for those hit by the splash damage. Although critical damage is reduced by about 25%, the fire damage more than makes up for it. I'd say the largest downside to this augment is that the effect doesn't do all that much damage and will often come up a little bit short of the kill, which is why it deserves the number 10 spot. So the number 9 spot is subcaliber rounds. Now this is the first crystal augment to get on this list. Now with this augment you have a 10% better reload time, 100% faster projectile speed, 25% more impact force, and no self damage. Now this augment isn't bad for the price, and it's a good starter augment for people without an exotic Thunder augment already. The only downside to this augment is that you can't have splash damage against the enemies, but for being a crystal augment, I'd say the pros of this augment far outweigh the cons, and that's why it's gonna get the number 9 spot. So number 8 spot's gonna go to Corrosion shells. Now this augment on critical hits will apply the armor piercing effect for a full 5 seconds, as well as do the same to those hit by the splash damage. Now this augment is decent overall, but since it takes around 1 to 3 seconds for Thunder to reload already, you can only get about 1 shot off before the status effect goes away. I wouldn't really say this augment deserves an exotic rarity, and that's why it's gonna get in the number 8 spot. Now the number 7 spot goes to Nanotech shells. Now although Nanotech shells isn't even in the game yet, it's already obvious how it's gonna work. So when you shoot a teammate with this augment, you heal them. Now this can completely change how someone would play with Thunder. It's always fun to use a turret in a completely different way than intended, which is why I love the Nanotech augments for various turrets so much. It's also why I enjoy the healing augment for Shaft as well. Overall, I think this augment is going to be tons of fun, and it may already be out by the time you see this video. But that's why it's going to get the number 7 spot. So number 6 spot's going to go to Pulsar. Now Pulsar at face value should be number 1 on this list, but with the critical chance being decreased by 30%, it makes the augment less effective. However, this augment really still is amazing. On a critical hit, you are able to jam someone for 5 seconds, stun them for 1 second, take away their supplies for 2 seconds, break their armor for 5 seconds, and catch them on fire for 4 seconds. Even if someone has protection against one status effect, the other 4 can still work effectively. Overall, this augment isn't amazing, but it isn't terrible, and that's when it's going to get the number 6 spot. So number 5 spot's going to go to noise shells. Now this augment would have been lower on the list if I made the video a few months ago. However, with today's balance, there are tons of players using drones that are very annoying to verse. Having an augment that can jam enemies is very crucial and helpful in most games. The effect also lasts for a full 3 seconds, which is nice when playing in gold events and you're trying to disable someone's overdrive, especially a hopper's overdrive, which we all hate hoppers. I know, it's annoying, but that's why it's going to get the number 5 spot. So number 4 spot's going to go to hyperspeed shells. Now, although this turret has 50% less damage and no critical hits, it's an absolute monster at long ranges. If you're able to use this on a long range map, you can basically one-shot anyone, even if they have protection against you. Now, this augment would have been higher on the list, but it doesn't work that well for short maps, and as a huge fan of short maps, I just can't use the augment enough, and that's why it's gonna go in the number 4 spot. So number 3 spot's gonna go to strict ammunition load. Now, this augment is a bit simple compared to the other augments, but is incredibly effective. You're guaranteed a critical shot every 3 shots and will always get a critical shot the first shot after you spawn. Now the reload time is also 10% faster. Although this augment is quite simple, it's also a very dependable augment, which is really enjoyable. As we know, it can be very annoying when you're not getting the amount of critical hits you want, but with this augment, you're guaranteed a critical hit every 3 shots, which is very nice, and it's a nice dependable augment to use if you're just down on your luck for the day. And that's why it's gonna get the number 3 spot. So number 2 spot's gonna go to adaptive reload. Now each person you hit will decrease the reload time by 30%. So if you hit multiple people, you can effectively shoot infinitely like you have Viking Overdrive. Now this augment is incredibly fun and unique. Not to mention, a ton of people are going to be getting it from the Tanki fund because the token of apology allowed for many people to buy into the Tanki fund, which is really nice. Honestly, this augment seems a bit broken, but overall, if people are using protection against you, it may not be as good as it seems, and that's why it's going to get the number 2 spot. So number 1 spot, I'm sure a lot of you would have recognized this, is vacuum shells. The augment allows for splash damage to do more damage than a direct hit. Although you only have a 1% chance for a critical hit, the splash damage is increased by around 250%. This augment also has an enjoyable skill barrier that can sometimes make it difficult, but the damage far outweighs the negatives of this augment. I always enjoy augments that are just more unique to use and more challenging to use, and vacuum shells is definitely one of those, and that's what's gonna get the #1 spot. I hope you guys enjoyed my list. Again, it was my own list. Let me know what your favorite augment is down in the comments below. Don't forget to use code Taspens, and I'll see you guys in a future video. Take care.